And that is 12 o'clock. Socially acceptable. Nice. I'm just kidding, it's not 12 o'clock yet, but it's my day off. It's 10 to 12. It's 10 to 12 at time of recording. But it's my day off, so I'm going to have a cheeky estrella. Damn. We've been to India for the first time. We can say we've been to India. Fantastic occasion for us to get to the subcontinent. I can't stress enough how important it is for, something like bike racing, which you're not like Formula One or car racing, where it has a more mainstream appeal. I think it's just essentially the fact that it's a car. I know it doesn't look like a road car, but people drive cars every day. Everybody owns a car, and it gets this like casual viewer attraction just for the fact that it's like car racing. It's seen as like the official motorsport. Do you know what I mean? Bike racing is a bit different. People who ride bikes are a bit different. It's a quirky group of people. Even though if you don't ride and you're a big MotoGP fan, there's got to be something about you that you just think I'm not as mainstream in everything. I like to just find the thing that is the most entertaining rather than the one that's the most glamorous, the one that everyone likes to watch. And so, we're independent thinkers, us bike people. And if there's something that India has a lot of, it is bike people. I mean, you're talking over 1 billion in population. A huge amount of those people ride bikes or scooters every single day of their lives. If you give them a chance, they will treat motorcycle racing the way, Europe maybe treats car racing or Formula One as it could become a more mainstream thing for them. So I think these markets, along with, the Southeast Asian market, you're looking at, Indonesia's, Thailand, Malaysia, huge markets for MotoGP. I think these are the most important markets to get into for Dorna. I think it's important that these events go well. There was obviously question marks in the lead up, but I think everything went well. I like the circuit. I like the layout. I like that it's not this because sometimes with the Herman Tilke design circuit, I think it is a Tilke circuit. You can get this sort of like forced kind of, they've got a big flat block of land and they just sort of work this artificial thing into it. Whereas this it has a bit of the undulations. The corners, is very well thought out. There's some sections that look like they'd be fun to compete on as well as watch. There were still those like Tilke hallmarks of like coming out of that last corner. It looks very much like Sepang and things like that. But just the way that the landscape's used nicely, some banking on some turns, some peeking over into blind apexes and stuff like that. That's the stuff you want to see. Has a much more natural vibe as a new circuit where you don't often get that from new circuits. And Portimao's a little bit like that as well because it feels like an old circuit, but it's not. And that's how I felt about this one kind of. But anyway, I enjoyed it. Obviously, there's still work to be done on these circuits to get them to the point where they're exactly what you'd be after, but it's better to be there with something that's maybe not quite perfect than not be there and wait till it becomes perfect and, just get in there, get in the market. Crowd numbers weren't great by the looks of it. And I guess I without knowing anything about how it was run or what it was like there or whatever, 100% I'm just going to assume that this was a ticket price thing because it always is when the numbers aren't great because people will watch this stuff if it's the right price. So I'd like to see more people through the gates, but especially when you're hitting a big market like that, surely it's worth selling tickets for cheaper to get more people in. And then if people enjoy it, they'll come back. And then as the years go on, you can maybe increase a little bit. But my 2 cents there. Let's get just straight into some Grand Prix racing here. Top of the line, Premier Class, MotoGP action. Marco Bezzecchi was unreal. Quite enjoyed seeing it. He's a nice lad, very likable guy. Has that very like Rossi persona about him. And I like seeing him do well. And he was exceptional this weekend. Even with being shafted a little bit by Marini. Bit of a mistake. I won't go into it too much. It is what it is. Martin, a nice little scrap, took home second. Very exhausted when he got off the bike. And I did, it was one of those things that you could talk about heat and the effect it can have on you and competing in hot climates, humid climates and things like that. But it's not always that easy to understand unless you're in it or if you see a visual representation of what it can do. And Martin getting off that bike, not making it back to the podium, had to stop at the garage, get water poured all over himself. In fact, he could have used a nice cold beer, I'm sure. Replace some of those electrolytes and things like that. But yeah, it was confronting almost to see how distressed he was at the end of the race. But yeah, he put on a show, that's for sure. We have seen the championship gap come down to 13 points now, due to Pecco's crash. So we did get a dramatic Sunday because we've really got to a point where we thought this was over, this championship. Pecco just needs to run around in second place and just win the title. And now we've got a show on our hands, and that's what we wanted. It's good to see Martin bringing it now and desperate to get those extra points for second, even though he could have just gone, I'm beat here. Like, I'm tired, it's hot. No, he really dirtied his elbows in and took some risks to come second and shows a bit of desperation. I like that. That's what you want from a professional sportsman, trying to win it all. Glory of what he's grown up trying to achieve his whole life. And we'll talk about Pecco soon. I'm going to get to Pecco because it's more than just a glancing comment that we need about this. Now, rather refreshing things to see was the Japanese manufacturers doing pretty well. So Marc and Mir for Honda, both with good pace over the weekend. Marc picking up a good result on Saturday, Mir picking up a good result on Sunday. Both of them alternating crash days there, which is, don't put all your eggs in one basket, alternating strategies, cover all bases. Fabio with a wonderful podium on Sunday. And I've got to say, it was really nice being in this alternate dimension where the Japanese manufacturer riders at that pace that I guess we all maybe thought, even if they are a bit slower this year, this is about where they'd be with the quality of the riders. This is the alternate universe we're supposed to be in, I think. And then we've diverted somewhere where they can't even get in the top 10. So this was nice to watch. I don't think that anyone can say that they didn't want to see these guys up there, and it was brilliant to see Fabio on the podium. Thoroughly deserved. The guy works his socks off. It's good to see these guys up where their talent should have them and not being held back by bike limitations. Joan Mir, there's still something there. It's easy to be critical of him, and I have been in the past because, again, it's one of those things where it's just stay on and ride slow rather than just crash all the time. I'd just rather see you get home in 15th, scrape a point, or lower. I'd rather see you come home in 18th than not finish the race every single week. It's demoralizing for him and it's demoralizing for us to see him in that state. Good to see him bring home the result. And I think that says a lot about the circuit. Surely these Japanese manufacturers are just I hope we just go to every circuit next year. It's just a circuit we've never been to before. So we can just always rely on the talent of the rider and not so much data from previous seasons. Now let's talk about Jorge Martin and his little Zipgate. We're calling it Zipgate, with his leathers coming unzipped and stuff like that. Now, this is a bit similar to Fabio's one. Fabio received a penalty for his, and Martin did not receive a penalty here. This is one of those ones that people will get outraged on Twitter about. It's not a big deal for me. And from what I understood the way that they worded Fabio's penalty from Catalonia that year, it was more about the fact that the equipment wasn't being used correctly in terms of just all equipment, just equipment must be used in the correct manner or something. Technical wording like that. And technically any zip being down is equipment not being used in the correct manner. So technically, I'd suggest that Martin also wasn't wearing his equipment in the correct way. Now, where it saved him is he stopped to zip it up. That's where it saved him, I think. But technically it was being used incorrectly for a period. Now, I'm not suggesting here that I'd want to see him penalised for this. I absolutely do not want to see him penalised for this. Technically, to the letter of the law, I'm not saying that's how it should be run. To get that caveat out of the way. But technically, to the letter of the law, he maybe should have been penalised in the same way that Fabio was for his. Obviously, what did Fabio win is he never zipped his up, whether he could or not, I don't know, but he threw his thing out as well. Martin didn't do that. Or if he did it on the slime. We didn't see it. But yeah, Zipgate rages on in the comment sections of posts everywhere. Now, Pecco. We thought we will pass this with Pecco, and I've probably had this chat on this post-race fallout. I can't even imagine how many times, because you end up in this phase where Pecco's doing this a lot. So you question his headspace, you question where he is at in terms of will he ever be past this sort of cracking under pressure type thing? And does he only perform when there's no pressure on? He strings together a heap of good results, blasts away in the title lead to the point where it's all over, pretty much. And then you go, he sorted it. He's fine. He's sweet. And then as soon as that pressure gets put back on him a little bit again, like Martin is doing here, we see another crack. There is another crack. So you do wonder sort of where is he in terms of his headspace? Is he just going to be one of these guys forever where he's got this kind of flaw that just won't go away, where he can make mistakes in these situations? And does that mean that when you look at him compared to all the other top guys in the field, if machinery does become a bit more even, and I'm talking about with the Japanese manufacturers, as well as, the KTMs and Aprilias and stuff like that coming to, and other, like Martin now on a similar machine is putting pressure on him. So if everyone starts to come up to a similar level and he's in title fights and title scraps, is he that hard, don't see any emotion, don't see cracks kind of winner, win at all costs, relentless winner? sometimes he looks like he is, and sometimes he looks like he isn't. I'm done with predicting where Pecco's at, because I could come on here and say, now look, he's got cracks in his game. He's going to fall crack under pressure. He does this all the time. And then he'll go on and do a big streak of wins now where he just rides off into the sunset. And then after that happens, I can be like, nah, he's just got his head down. It was one mistake. He's got his head down. He's passed all that. He's matured. And then he could go and do it again like he's done now. So, Pecco, what are we going to do with you, mate? I still think I have him edging the title race. But, I mean, Martin's just so good at the moment. And Bez isn't that far off. I mean, another DNF for either one of these, or, if Bez just keeps it consistent, then, you can bring it to, if you can get it to under 30 points, with another couple of good results, then we're on, Obviously, time for crisis talks for Marc and Honda. If the rumours are to be believed, he's going to head office to have a chat with the big boss. Davide Tardozzi of Ducati has given us our first indication that Ducati are actually... there is maybe some contact there with them. He's come out and made a statement saying that, if he ends up at Cressini, and he's part of the Ducati family, that they love Marc, they'd be happy to have him there, blah, blah, blah. While it's not saying anything in particular, it's the first time we've had someone really official say something like that. Makes the assumption that he is talking to them in some way. But I think this is 1 minute to midnight on this Marc decision, I think. I think after Japan, we're going to get it. I don't think you can leave it much longer. We're coming towards the end of the season. You need things to be sorted now. So if he's going to move on, I'm sure he'd need to Honda would want it rather just know so they can replace him. I mean, Ducati be a bit more relaxed about it, because if they knew he was coming and nothing got announced, they'd be like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Like, you're coming. All that would mean that telling whoever it is that's in line for that Grassini seat that they're not getting it. And most of everyone else is secured a ride so far. I think it's maybe just Digi that is holding out hope, but I don't think he's getting it anyway. But he's not had anything announced of where he could be going other than this. So he'd be hanging on it a little bit, but I don't think anyone else really is, because the other candidates to take the seat, you're looking at like Dixon and Arbolino. They've got rides anyway secured for next season. I think they just have out clauses that if they do get a MotoGP offer, they can take it. So there'd be no stress on their end. And do we need to talk about anyone else? I mean, we've got another poor outing for Jack Miller. Had a good Saturday. Sunday couldn't get it hooked up. Got turfed wide turn one and then ended up wide again on the next lap. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but ended up way back in like 20th or something. So failure to launch on Sunday. But when he did get a good launch on Saturday, he got a really good result. So not panic stations yet, but will he be concerned? I don't know. No one else really to talk about. Some guys had good weekends, some had bad weekends. Nothing that's showing a real trend, to be honest. And I've got to say, I really enjoyed the whole weekend experience. It was really nice. I mean, if you're in the EU, UK time zone like I am, or I suppose it'd be the same with the sort of more African time zones and stuff like that as well. Really nice having it all wrapped up by lunchtime. I thought it was brilliant. I do love obviously sitting on an Sunday afternoon and Saturday afternoon and watching your racing. You can get stuff done in the morning. But I tell you what, having it all wrapped up by 1 o'clock was lovely. I thought had the whole day ahead of me then. After that, get a few of these in. As we switch gears to Moto2 now, Pedro Acosta, fantastic. It is what it is. We had a potentially top race killed off by the red flag. So we had a point there where Pedro was running third at the start. And I think it was Arbolino from Dixon, maybe. Arbolino was stretching his legs a little bit at the front that lap. And whilst I don't think it would have changed the result, probably would have done Dixon a world of good, but it wouldn't have changed the result really for the other two, except that we would have got a bit of a battle to get to that result that we didn't get after the restart because things got shuffled up a bit. Dixon got buried a little bit and Pedro got away at the front a bit cleaner. So it did kind of kill the chances of an entertaining race a little bit, but it is what it is. Pedro is the best in class. This one is all but done, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of Jake Dixon, put down as a racing incident, his incident with Alonso Lopez. I think generally the vibe is here that it probably shouldn't have been put down as a racing incident from what I've picked up from people and the commentators certainly. I mean, I watch TNT Sports, so take that with a pinch of salt. The ultra biased British commentary was scathing about Alonso Lopez. I'd like to see it from another angle. The angle that we got to see it on, it looked like two guys are meeting a little bit in the middle. Dixon goes wide. Lopez comes underneath where he thinks there's a gap. They meet in the middle. They both go down. I guess I'd be looking 60-40 if I had to blame fault to Lopez. I suppose the onus is on him to avoid the crash coming from behind. So that is where that would be. But I would like to have seen it from another angle. They only showed one angle from what I could see on the telecast. So Arbolino needed this result. Needed badly this result. And he got it. I don't think it helps him in championship-wise, but it does stave off Dixon for a bit longer, and it just reaffirms to him that he's not doing a Vietti. He's still got something going on there, so that was good. And you know, it's good to see in this race, obviously with the qualifying being on a drying circuit and things like that, and the way the race panned out, it just meant there was quite a few spanners throwing themselves in the work this weekend in Moto2. So we had guys like, well, Joe Roberts on the podium, so that's different. You had guys like Van der Gorberg, Barry Baltus mixing it up there at the front, Darren Binder, and young Sergio Garcia, who of the graduating class of 2022 from Moto3, and you're talking him, Izan Guevara, and Dennis Foggia, he's looking like a clear standout of the three once they go up into bigger machinery. A bit surprised that Guevara's not shown a bit more, but I think he will get there. But Sergio Garcia looks primed and just ripe for a real go at it next season. I think he looks really good. I like the kid a lot. Over in Moto3, the early race here, I was up nice and early for this one. I mean, to be honest, I was up even earlier because I was watching the F1s. That started at 6. This started at 8. So the F1s finished. I switched over to this, and I did doze off in the middle of this one for a while, I'll be honest. But I was woken back up by all the excitement towards the end. Jaume Masia just sort of did his thing. Really good result for him. Puts him into, I guess, equal on points for the title lead with Daniel Gardo, who did a good salvage job to just stay in it. And then Yumi Sasaki, bit of an incident to the final turn with his teammate. Suggestion that there may be punishment coming for an incident like that, but I don't think anything ever did come. He has come third there. Nice to see Kaito Toba mixing it up there at the front as well. Good to see him show a bit of form there. David Alonso and Dennis Onchu, who weren't at their brilliant best this weekend. Dennis Onchu, all these issues coming, I think it was on Friday or Saturday, and then that affected him through the weekend where he had started at the back and drive long lap penalties and things like that. But they're still slightly adrift, maybe 20 odd points, I think. So they're not out of it. This is still very much 5 guys in play, I think. Still 5 guys in play in this one. This is the kind of title fight we want in Moto3. We want the title fight. There's many guys in it going into the last race, as there usually is in a Moto3 race, trying to get the win on the last lap. So 3 guys within a point of each other, which is lovely. We'll say with Colin Via, unlucky to go down, was mixing up for a podium there. I really like this kid. And he was so frustrated when he went down. He was angry. You could see it. I wouldn't worry about that with him at this point of his career and his age. You may have got your first podium, whatever. I get that it means something, but just think about the fact that you're on podium pace a lot of the time now, or you're released in front group running pace. So once you just make sure you're always there. And I wouldn't be too stressed about it if I was a guy at his this point of his career, because next year is again, you know, really looking good to step up next season. I think he looks like a real talent. I like him a lot. And that's it. India's done. We're off to Japan, the land of the rising sun. Time for everyone to crack out their obligatory special helmets for this round, like we like to do when going to places like Japan. Wrap this video up now, and we'll see you after Japan.